Hello and welcome back to Dad's Kitchen. I'm going to show you today how I make mushroom risotto. It's a wonderful dish from Italy, obviously, and I like to use these woodland mushrooms. One of the things about mushrooms is that you shouldn't really cut them. All I do is just tear them, because you don't want to have like very large pieces, but it's also quite nice to have like rugged edges like this. So if they are very big, you just cut them up a little bit, just separate them, and that should do it. A nice thing about making it like this is that you also have things in different sizes. It gives it quite a nice texture. So once you've got this, all you have to do is just start frying. Mushrooms need to be fried at a higher temperature so that they don't soak all that oil very quickly, and that's what we are about to do now. Okay, and I'm going to be using today this wonderful kitchenware by Bra. We don't need the lid, but I just love the whole thing. It's got these wonderful handles. Okay, so we're going to be putting a little bit of oil. In fact, I actually put quite a bit. I'm a huge fan of olive oil. That heats up immediately, and the mushrooms need to go. I'm just going to check that they're a decent size. Break that one up a bit. That's it. And we just need to fry them up a little bit. Oh, you can hear it immediately. And you can see how they soak the olive oil, which is why you don't fry the onion yet. Okay, so the next thing we need to do, we need to chop some onion. Very sharp knives. Got to be very careful, because I'm not an expert with knives. And I probably don't do it the right way. I'm always aware that my fingers are in the way. Okay, so the onion, and we also need to have some garlic. I've already peeled the garlic, just little bits. I like it quite chunky. And that's the next thing we've got to add. Okay, so here we have the onion now. You don't need to fry the onion like loads. It doesn't need to go brown. It's the last thing that you want in the risotto, that it's colored. So you just want the onion to cook and be clear. Okay, so that's doing really well. One of the most important things about risotto is the stock. I remember in Italy going and asking many years ago, what risotto? What is it? What is it, the one that you have? And he said, risotto, risotto, and he went away, mumbling. And I worked out that it doesn't matter what ingredients you put, you could have prawns, salmon, whatever, it's the stock. I use these dried mushrooms, which I soak overnight. You can get little parcels at Swarovski's, and they've got Woodland, really nice dried Woodland ones. And this is what I have after the end of the poaching evening. It's been there for about 6 hours, 8 hours, and the juice is what I want. It's wonderful. Okay, so that is nearly done now. The stock needs to be boiling. I just don't want those mushrooms in there. You could use the mushrooms, but they have quite a strong flavour. I don't throw them out. I use them in other recipes. They're wonderful on top of pizzas. One of the important things about risotto, it needs to be risotto rice. It cannot be anything else. The idea is that it breaks up as you stir it. You've got to stir it constantly. And it cooks for 15 to 18 minutes. I'll explain what I do after 15 minutes. But this is the key ingredient. It's ready to go in now. Okay, so now you need to put in all the rice and stir it for about a minute. You need to coat it in all that oil. And you can see how it starts to change colour. This is key. It will give it a lovely nutty flavour. Okay, so we need to use herbs. These are just normal, like those Italian herbs. They can be anything. So we add that. And also bay leaf. One of the things that risotto normally doesn't have, but I use, is actually rosemary. But I love the rosemary. I only use it when I do the mushroom one, because it works really well with that woodiness. So we stir that a little bit, and then once it's all dry, it needs a good glass of white wine. It can be any wine, but white wine goes really well with this one. It needs to cook for 15 minutes, and it's about the only time I use a timer, my faithful friend here. Because once you put that 15 minute, every time it dries out, and you need to carry on letting it dry out, you need to add a ladle full of stock. Now in Italy they would say that you've got to do the same pattern throughout. The idea is that as you stir, you break all the starch, and that is what makes risotto creamy. And the stock needs to be hot. Usually for the first lot I use 2. And now for 15 minutes you just need to be here stirring, and you get into a pattern. Okay, so we need to grate now some parmesan. Although this is actually pecorino, but it's very difficult. You go to Roski and they've got a wonderful selection of cheeses. Parmesan would be the one. I've got it here, but I'm going to use pecorino today. And you need to grate quite a lot of it because it does take a lot of cheese. Okay, so that's the 15 minutes. That's the 15-minute cooking time. Now we have to do a process, about another 3 minutes cooking time. So I'll put that there, and it's a process called mantecare, which literally means to emulsify. And we need to add the butter and about half of the cheese that we grated, fresh parsley, which I have of course frozen. This is where I use the pepper, and you can use as much pepper as you like. I like lots. And the salt, which we haven't done yet. And for the next 3 minutes we stir. You can see how beautifully the whole thing has cooked. The heat is regular throughout. This pan is an absolute wonder. And you can see now how adding, a lot of people think that risotto is made with cream. It is not. If the process has been done, you can stir in for 15 minutes and then you add the butter and the cheese, you get the creamy consistency. So that's it. It needs to be served immediately. It's one of those dishes that won't stay. One of the things about risotto is also that it needs to be creamy and it needs to go down. It cannot be sometimes you find it in places and it's very solid. You add that. Quite a lot of cheese at the end because it will melt really nicely. It's quite nice. And that's basically what they would call risotto funghi. And you can't not have this without a little bit of wine, what you've used to make the sauce. And this is how I make mushroom risotto.